So I've always liked launching rockets and building them, but the one thing I don't know how to build is a rocket motor. So I've always been curious on how to build a rocket motor. In this video, I'll talk about how I'm trying to make a solid rocket fuel, and this is part 1. So when looking at some articles and videos, I realized that rocket fuel usually has 2 components: fuel and oxidizer. Specifically, the rocket fuel that I wanted to make was sugar rocket fuel. So it would be made out of sugar and some kind of oxidizer. The oxidizer that I saw was most commonly used was KNO3, or potassium nitrate, which is in a lot of fertilizers and stump removers. For the first part of this series, I'm just going to try to mix these ingredients and see what happens.
2,000 years later.
So I got my hands on some potassium nitrate, but the way it came in small BBs, which were pretty hard to use. So I wanted to crush them by hand, and that didn't work. So I had to find a different way. So one way I thought to crush it was taking a coffee grinder, but unfortunately I didn't have that with me at the time. So I decided to try to crystallize it by dissolving it and letting it form again in a water solution. Then I put it in the fridge to recrystallize. What I think is happening here is because we are increasing the heat of the water solution, we increase the solubility, making it a supersaturated solution. And when we returned it back to normal temperature and disturbed it, it immediately started crystallizing. After this, I was left with this oxidizer soup. So what I decided to do was evaporate the rest of the water off by putting it back on the stove. After this, I was left with some powdery stuff that still had some pretty big chunks in it. So I decided to crush it with a hammer. So finally, it was time to burn it. So what I wanted to try out was, instead of sugar, I decided to try to use some old pieces of wood and the KNO3 oxidizer. However, this wasn't lighting, so instead I just finally caved in and used some sugar instead. Once it touched the fuel, it started burning rapidly, and it only lasted for a few seconds. Please subscribe for part 2, where I try to mix them using a correct rocket fuel ratio and hopefully generate some thrust and make a functioning motor.